What's up, Nerf Herders? How you guys doing? We're jamming over here.
Jamming, my man. Happy Friday, Seth. Happy
yeah, for
Friday.
sure. Happy Friday. I've been sick all week, but happy Friday.
I'm sorry to hear that. This ain't no Monday night. This is Friday night.
Right.
We couldn't wait all weekend to talk about this.
No, we were not going to chill to wait out for this. But that being said, I do not live in a world where I bother with spoiler-free reviews. So Josh, why don't you go throw that spoiler tag up on there for us?
We didn't even put together this show. You just watched it. I watched it earlier today so I could record my reaction for you. I didn't have time to put together graphics or a slideshow or anything, so I'm gonna try to do things on the fly. But yeah, we gotta talk about this, man.
I am fresh off of my viewing. My first viewing took me a little while, but I got there. But yeah, the more I think about the way we do our show, the more I think, you know what? I'm glad that we don't really bother doing spoiler-free reviews because, first of all, as a viewer, you shouldn't be looking up reviews of content that you are expecting to see, not at this stage in the game.
Sure.
But yeah, so we're gonna talk spoilers today. So if you have not seen the finale for WandaVision yet, you need to go and watch that. Because we're going to spoil the ever-loving shit out of it. We're gonna talk in full detail. We're not gonna mince words. We're going right on in there. So, if you have not seen WandaVision, step away. You have been warned. Do we have a warning on the title for this as it's going? I mean, yeah, we've got the spoiler tag out there. I just feel like we need to put something up there because this is day of. And we're like, I want somebody to see the
spoilers
thumbnail and be like, all right, we got spoilers coming.
We'll get it on there. We'll get it on there for sure.
Okay, cool. So it finally came to an end. We did, like, I'm gonna jab a little bit because, like I said, Josh is kind of putting this together on the fly. So he's awesome. Give him a round of applause for being able to do that.
Appreciate that.
While like trying to like jumble through all of this. I asked him one question before we started recording. And that was just to get his general mood. And he and I are on the same page as far as like the final outcome. But the series has come to an end. WandaVision series, season 1. I don't know if we're going to have multiple seasons. I really doubt it. I don't think they've made any announcement or any plan to do multiple seasons. I really kind of hope that they don't.
The episode was called the series finale, so it
was called the series finale. So
yeah,
that could also be a play on just WandaVision series coming to play. Like, if there's anything that this show proved to us is that it is impossible to make expectations and get away with it. Completely impossible to make expectations and get away with it. But once again, spoilers. We've got the tag down there at the bottom. It's going to be running the whole time. If you have not seen the WandaVision finale, if you haven't seen WandaVision at all, well, honestly, if you haven't seen WandaVision at all and you're not interested, you can keep watching, I guess, if you don't care if it's being spoiled for you. But if you haven't seen the finale, go watch it, get caught up, and then come back. This will be up on our YouTube as usual, so you can find the post broadcast at that point. Now, I'm gonna jump right in here, and I'm gonna say that I am not as satisfied as I really wanted to be. And Josh, why don't you take a break from trying to like piece the show together here real quick and kind of let me know what you're feeling here.
So John Campea put out a show yesterday. He's one of the guys that I watch on a fairly regular basis, and he addressed a quote from the director. The director of the show did an interview with somebody. I was going to pull it up and have it ready, but I didn't. Basically, he said that he felt that there are people that are going to be disappointed with this finale. Now, for the most part, he was talking about the fact that this show has spawned so many fan theories. And he said just because of that, just because of the sheer amount of fan theories, there are going to be people that are inevitably disappointed with the finale when their fan theories don't happen. Here's the thing. Me and you, we've talked about theories on this show before. We've talked about possibilities, but we've also talked about how in most part we were happy with the decisions that the show made, despite what our or other people's theories were. And having seen the finale, I felt that maybe that quote was some type of pre-warfare on the disappointment of fans that were just disappointed in the show and not in some fan theories. Because personally, my disappointment was in the show, not in something that didn't happen in a fan theory or some cameo that didn't happen or whatever. I felt like they were almost saying, if you were disappointed in the show, it's your fault for thinking it was going to go a certain way. But I really felt like the show itself failed to live up in the second half to the show that it was in the first half.
So, like the way that you put that, so it's kind of unfair for them to be. I mean, if you had expectations, it's your own fault. It's like you guys built these expectations. How else do these expectations come about? Some of them, yes, are going to be absolutely insane. There's definitely some crazy expectations out there, but a lot of them are really not out of line. In
fact, some of them were because you, as the writers of the show, were in some points like straight up trolling the fans, the fans, knowing that the words you were typing out on the page were going to elicit a certain response. But again, that's only part of it. I have a deeper disappointment in the way the show went instead of how certain elements went. But we can get into whatever you want to get into.
So I have to look at this as part of a grander scheme. Because it's very clear that at this point in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that they are not having any pieces of content that aren't going to be tied together in such a way that it is essential for you to have seen every piece of content. That's been made clear.
Actually, Kevin Feige just did an interview last month with some TV show or committee or whatever, and they asked him during the interview. They asked him straight out, will people have needed to see the Disney Plus shows in order to understand the films in Phase 4? And he said no. And that seems to conflict with what he said in the past. In the past, we were made to believe that Phase 4 is every much these shows as it is the films. And he straight up told this reporter, if you don't see the films, you're not missing out on Phase 4, which definitely puts a dent in their importance.
But at the same time, I feel like that's not accurate at this point. But then again, knowing that the next piece of content that WandaVision specifically is going to have an impact on, and it's been quoted, it's been reported, it's been confirmed, is going to be Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. So without seeing that, it is kind of hard to gauge how important it will be to have seen WandaVision ahead of time. I feel very strongly that seeing WandaVision or not seeing WandaVision will have absolutely no bearing on how somebody enjoys Falcon and Winter Soldier.
For sure, since they were out of order anyway.
Yeah. So it doesn't seem to me like the shows themselves, at least at this point in time, are going to be tied into each other enough to where that's going to be a factor. But it does seem like this is going to be pretty important for, maybe at the absolute barest of bones, when you go and see a new Marvel film in Phase 4, you don't have to have seen the shows to understand the movies, because they'll explain the plot to you. They'll have enough exposition in there to kind of fill in any gaps that you didn't have, but to truly appreciate it, to truly understand, to truly be satisfied with the experience, absolutely, of course, they're going to want you to have seen this content. That's why they're building it that way. And so when a show is put together like this, and it ends the way that it does, I have to look at spoiler alert. I wasn't super stoked with the way that this series ended.
Yeah.
Um, I have to look at it on the grander scheme. It's like, all right, we've been left on yet another cliffhanger, like massively. Um, we've been left on a cliffhanger of a very like anticlimactic
Yeah.
ending.
I wouldn't call it a cliffhanger. I would just call it an ending. Like I was expecting a cliffhanger by the way that Feige hyped up this show about the beginning of Phase 4 and how much it would influence things like the next Doctor Strange film. I was expecting a cliffhanger. This to me was just like a
maybe a stair hanger. Like
this just felt like it was very anticlimactic, especially
like her fight with Agatha was.
Let's just break down what happens in the episode. Let's start from the beginning. We can talk about what we liked and what we didn't like. And let's just run through it.
It picks right up off of where we left off. Like
right, Agatha's got her kids.
Got Tommy and Billy held like being hung essentially, and like in quick succession, we find out that Agatha is like, all right, you know what? I take magic from people. This is what I do.
She's from undeserving people.
Yes, she's already revealed to Wanda that she's the Scarlet Witch. She's talked about all these references. It's like, all right, cool, got it. We're there now. They
exchange a couple of blows, and just like she did with those witches, she starts taking a little bit of Wanda's energy. We see Wanda's hand go gray,
her, like life force almost. Like it was crazy.
And basically, Agatha's like, look, this is my thing. I take magic from those that are undeserving. Why don't me and you cut a deal? You give me what I want. I'll let you have your little fantasy here. And Wanda decides to fight her a bit. And she throws a car at her.
She throws a car at her, and we get a nice little Wizard of Oz moment.
Which was kind of fun. I'll give it that. It was kind of fun.
It was a good
I was like, the boots.
And then we get Fake Vision, who shows up.
We get Fake Vision. He's got a little more computerized Paul Bettany voice. But he's got Paul Bettany voice. He doesn't have Ultron's voice like we had theorized could happen. But he is evil.
Did,
he goes up, touches her, says Wanda. She's like, "Oh my God, you're here!" And then he starts trying to crush her face. And thankfully, she's saved by the real Vision. And thus the two fights start: the Vision v Vision, and Agatha. Well, yeah, they're both and there's full discussion of that. That's kind of smart, but yeah, the Vision's fight and the Witch's fight.
So we've got these two fights breaking off. We've got the kids like kind of watching in their room, or they run off to the room to start off, which was such a waste to me. Like I was so irritated by that. She's like, "Oh, go to your room." I was like, "Yeah, it makes sense. She's a parent. She's trying to." But these fucking super kids.
Well, right? The show didn't know what to do. The show had all these powered entities. They didn't know what to do with the kids. They didn't know what to do with Monica Rambeau. So for the majority of the episode, they had those people stuck in rooms so that we could focus on this. Because we only had a 50-hour or 50-minute episode. I don't know why it was so short, but again, it was plagued by a short running time, and it felt rushed as hell.
That's a really good way to put it. Honestly, the substance was there. Like all of the pieces were there to make a good finale episode. It was just that's a great way to summarize it. Like they tried to pack too many good things were there and available for them, and they didn't have enough time to really play with them. And that is, I think, what really fucked this up for me, because like there were a lot of really good elements there. Like there were some surprise moments. There were some like, oh crap, okay, cool, this is pretty neat. There were, but again, like we didn't have enough time to really like connect with any of it. This should have been the epic conclusion, and it wasn't, because they were trying to take all these epic things, but Epic has to grow. Epic can't just show up. Epic has to fucking grow. And they didn't leave this shit out in the sun long enough for us to get any of that stuff done.
Right.
And again, we also had a lot of powered entities here. I don't think they knew exactly what to do with all of that, which is another fair assessment.
Yeah. While the parents go out and fight, Monica's trapped in a man cave with fake Pietro,
which
for no reason.
Which isn't even right. Like, we find out that it's just a spell that Agnes had cast on him to give him all that shit, and that he's just another part of the missing puzzle.
So this was the first troll of the episode, or one of the biggest trolls of the show. The writers and Kevin Feige made a purposeful choice to cast this guy in this role, this actor, knowing full well that people, and they even said it in the subtitles, that people would associate him with Evan Peters, with the Quicksilver of the X-Men films. Mm-hmm. And, we talked about this before, that this is way too early, that the whole Fox crossover isn't going to happen until closer to Phase 4, because this stuff has been in the works. It's not like they're going to change everything on the dime.
Into Phase 4, yeah.
But later into Phase 4, early Phase 5. But they I keep on forgetting we're in Phase 4, not in Phase 3 anymore. But anyway, they made that choice to cast this guy, and then it turns out he's just an actor named Ralph Boner. Yeah. And that's it. He's just an actor who conveniently was living next to Wanda's house. And he looks just like Quicksilver from the X-Men universe. And somehow Monica, who at first can't even get to the door without her cutting him off, is able to just pounce on him and take off his magic necklace. And then he is powerless. And he's back to just a scared actor living in his man cave. But that's all of that. The possible revelations, this is breaking the MCU wide open, all of that was nothing. It was just, they did something on purpose to distract us. And had this been a bigger show, that might have been fun. But this show is less than 6 hours. This entire season is less than 6 hours. Yeah. And when we barely have enough time to develop the real story, being plagued with these trolling things just feels like a dick move at the end. It didn't feel fulfilling at all.
See, it was the fact that they brought him out. So, like, there was so much trolling in this season that is only trolling because of the way that it ended.
Yeah, it's not the fans' fault that they got excited about it. You did this to us, Don't blame the fans for getting excited.
Like, you guys, like, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is held up on a really big pedestal right now after Endgame and the Infinity Saga, and having done such an incredible job over the span of a decade. And then they're like, you know what? We've acquired some new franchises. Like, we're now the best at keeping secrets in the movie industry. As far as like the more popular franchises go, and then as soon as we never even got resolution to fucking Monica's guy that she knows.
Nope, that just turned out to be nobody. Turned out to be nobody.
And I defended that like over and over again. I was like, well, we haven't seen the guy yet. I was like, maybe something else is going to happen in there. Like, what did she even break in there for? Like, she got in and she did nothing except...
That's because they didn't have time to give her anything.
Exactly. She broke in there. She did nothing. Like, she revealed that, like, she freed Pietro, or fake Pietro, or Boner, from his spell. And then...
Her only purpose in the show is to get powers. It wasn't to influence the events of the show.
Sure.
When we could have gotten that in Captain Marvel 2 or in the Eternals or something like that. Again, she was just there to get powers and to be sympathetic towards Wanda.
You still could have done that though without like honestly, I feel like they could have cut Evan Peters' role out of this show completely and
Yes.
still have made the emotional impact, still have had everything be like clear and concise. But they had that one episode where they needed him in there, which I still like. Honestly, why not just bring the original actor back and have him act completely different? And
And
then
if he
find
didn't
out
want
that
to be a part of it, then just don't do it. I
yeah,
mean, we
just don't
had
do it. I mean,
flashbacks episodes to Wanda's life. We didn't reference her at all or him at all, and
no.
so you could have just done without it.
But yeah, like Monica just didn't do anything in this. Honestly, she didn't do anything in this show. Like
She really didn't.
broke. She
Except
broke in.
piss me off in the end, but we're not there yet. Uh,
She broke
she,
in. She got some powers, and then she protected Wiccan from getting bullets. When we find out that Wiccan, there was no worry that he was going to get shot. Like he was there, and then also, like that cool move that she made ended up being for nothing because, like,
well, again, how does she know she has the power to stop bullets? I mean,
yeah,
like it would be one thing if she like dived in front of them to save them from the bullets, but she didn't. She just jumped in front of them like she knew what she was doing to stop. Okay, hold up. We gotta talk about this whole thing. First of all,
I don't
while
think
the
we're past that point, man. We're past the point.
no,
where we can talk
I
about a
mean
timeline here.
I mean the thing of the gun and the bullets itself. So the parents are fighting. No, we missed a huge thing. The parents are fighting. Agatha's got Wanda in Times Square, and she starts releasing the minds of the people in the town, and they start crowding around Wanda. And Dottie comes up to her and says, "Please, I don't care what storyline. My daughter can be a friend to your kids. They can be a bully if you want her to be. Just please let me see my daughter. She's been trapped in her room. She's been trapped in her room, and you won't let me see her." And if we're to believe that this show has been going on for a week or 10 days, that's 10 days outside of Halloween that this girl has been trapped in her room. Her mom can't even go in there. And she's like, "Just please let me see my daughter." And then everybody else starts crowding around her. And they're like, "If you're not going to let us go, then just let us die." And instead of Wanda saying, "I'm so sorry, I'll help you, I swear I'll help you," she starts choking them all to death. And I get it. She's breaking down, but she starts choking them all to death. And Agatha's like, hate to mention this, but good guys don't torture people. So Wanda starts opening up the hex to break it down. And this lets the director dude in. And where's he at? This lets the sword director in and his crew. I don't know what they were planning on doing when they got in there, but all they did was bring in their machine guns like they did before that were useless against her. But he shows up, and it was like the show needed a reason for him to be a villain, because honestly, up to this point, he was just a dick. He had done no crimes. He works for an organization called Sentient Weapon, so he made a sentient weapon. That's not a crime. So it was like, we have to have him shoot at the kids to make him really the bad guy, because otherwise you could argue that he was just there to save the people of this town.
Well, the thing that wasn't what really infuriated me about how they handled his arc in this show. It's that the people who he was like really the villain for was Monica, Wu, and Darcy, and we didn't get resolution to any of that.
No, in fact, Darcy just disappears in this show. Like, she's there for 5 seconds. She hits him with a car, and then she's out. She's not in the final episode. She's not like, "Hey, let's form our own merry band." She hits him with the car, and then she's like, "Hey, I gotta go shoot some other movie," and she's out. But he's there, and I would guarantee you that everybody in that town would see him as a hero. So the writers are like, we have to have him do something terrible. So he opens fire on fictional kids, and that's it. That's the main villainous thing he does. And then Darcy hits him with a car and says, "Have fun in prison." And honestly, I'm like, why? Why would he go to prison? What has he done? What I mean, even with Wu, he kicked Wu out of the project. Wu broke back in, so he had him arrested. If an FBI agent broke into a CIA facility, the CIA would have the FBI guy detained. That's not meaning that there's
He
anything
offered him a
illegal
job.
going on. Yeah.
He offered him to be part of it.
I'm
Like,
not
hey, you
saying
want
he's
in
a
on
good
this?
guy. He's clearly a bad guy, but Sword isn't some secret Hydra operation. It's clearly a government department. It has
Yeah.
sentient weapon in the title, so he's literally, he's literally doing what the job title says, and he's trying to get rid of the fake entities that are keeping this hex alive, aka the children and fake Vision, and he's trying to attack Wanda. Anybody else would look at this and say he's trying to save a town of hostages and he's just a dick, but he's not really the Vision. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on with that, but I was really disappointed in how they handled that. And then Monica comes in, saves the kids. The two Visions have this ship of Theseus conversation in
Which
the library.
I liked that a lot.
It was smart. I did like the ship of
Like-
Theseus. It was a very smart. These two in a library having that conversation felt right to the character.
Honestly, this was a moment that I needed to have, because like there was a big question. It's like, does this Vision have the previous memories? We find out yes, he does. They've just been encrypted. Like, but that's nothing to the Mind Stone. He gets through, but then he fucks off, and it's like,
Yeah.
all right. So where the hell did he go? Like, what do we?
So he
dealing
might
with
have
here
the
now?
Vision. He might have the memories of Vision, and then at the end he says, "I am Vision," but he clearly doesn't have the emotional attachment to those.
Well,
Because if he did, he would stick around.
Well, which lines up with the comic book references towards White Vision, because that's exactly what he ends up being, is just Vision without emotion, like full, like the sentient part, or the human element of him is completely gone in the comic book, in his comic book appearances. So that made sense to me, that they were faithful to it in that regard.
Well, and also Wanda had already searched him, and she might have seen his memories in the data,
she
as
couldn't
Vision
feel
said.
Vision
But she
anymore,
didn't
like, that was the
Vision.
thing.
Yeah, she didn't feel Vision himself. So just because he has memories doesn't mean he is fully restored. Clearly not, because he apparently didn't give two shits about Wanda outside and just pieced out of there. So, I mean,
Well,
Vision
like,
as a
that was
character
kind of
will
the
come
thing.
back,
Like,
but-
it created a paradox in his programming.
Mhm.
And yeah, like when you create, this is it was a slight nod, but again, they didn't have enough time to explore it. But it was a slight nod to like the real danger in AI. It was like, you've created
just
this,
like
you've created
Ultron.
this weapon, you've created this machine, and then you gave it a directive. But as soon as it realized it was like how intelligent it actually was, it was like, okay, why do I need to do? I'll do whatever the fuck I want to, and then
Right.
he disappears to go and do whatever the fuck he wants to go and find out, like to go and like fill in missing gaps and stuff like that. Like, what is that motive going to be? When are we going to find out? I don't fucking know. That is the big question that I have around Vision's character for this show. And I am thankful to WandaVision for at least giving me some answers for that. Because
But it still felt like it was crammed in
it still felt like it was crammed
super
in,
fast
but
finale. I mean, we
it still
just saw him last episode, and now all of a sudden he's gone. I mean, it was just too short. And the fights up until this point, the CGI was back and forth, good and not good. I mean, I get it; they're multi-dimensional. Well, they're not multi-dimensional, but they can phase in and out of their physical bodies and
it would
stuff.
be
But
really
it
tough
looked
to make
wonky at
something
times.
like that. It's tough to make stuff in visual effects as it is, make it look real. But
there were moments in this episode where I felt the CGI was lacking, compared to the rest of the series.
I mean, there were, like, especially around Agatha's character, she looked very cartoony flying around.
Yeah. Well, they
No,
have a
but
final show off, Agatha and Wanda. Wanda starts giving everything she's got to Agatha, and she's throwing one fireball at Agatha and one fireball at the wall. And even
this
Agatha's
is
like, "What are you doing?" Uh,
we
what?
have to remember she disappears. Like
Yeah. Well, yeah.
like Wanda phases out and um tries to invade
Oh,
Agatha's
right. The
mind.
memories first before they start
Um
exchanging blows. Yeah.
like
She
she
takes
actually
her back
gets
to the
in.
stake.
We get classic Scarlet Witch there for a second. Or Age of Ultron Scarlet Witch
Yeah,
there.
she has that Tony, the thing she did to Tony and the Avengers. Yeah.
Yeah, she gets into her mind, and then we see like the Salem thing again, and then we find out that Agatha has like some level of control over that magic as well, or experience with it, and she's able to like pull it back on her. Well,
That's what it keeps coming back to, is that Agatha's saying, "Look, you may be the more powerful one here, but I know how to use the magic."
she even says that in there. It's like you've
Yeah.
got power, but you don't have knowledge.
Right.
Which now there was a clever thing here. They didn't really allude to too terrible much, but they did. But they did at the same time, and I appreciated it. Specifically around like the future part. But they get into our fight. Wanda basically says like, "Take it. I don't want it." She's wanting to give her the power. Like after Agatha again offers her, is like, "Give me your power. I'll let you keep the reality that you have. You'll live in a family, Westview, peacefully, all that shit."
Mm-hmm.
Blah 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 blah. Wanda appears at first not to accept,
Mm-hmm.
like because she breaks out of the dream.
Mm-hmm.
And then she starts saying, "Take it. I don't want it." And they have their fight. Vision has gone back to the boys, and I think that's also around the same time that Monica and Hayward have their little bullet moment, which again proved kind of useless.
And then Monica's just standing around there after a while. She's just like, "All right, I'll just watch the show."
Like the troops are all frozen by Wiccan. They still can't move. But again, we don't see anything. I like that Speed ran through and like grabbed the guns, took them away, like even gave himself a hat and some glasses just to.
But conveniently, they did that for all of the armed men except for the director. Like he was conveniently not affected by either of their powers.
Like after being hit by that truck, I guess they just didn't.
No, this was before he got hit by the truck. Before he got out and started shooting at him, they had done the whole freeze thing with everybody. Okay. So they just froze everybody but the one that shot at him.
My mind was trying to process an awful lot while we were going through all this. Yeah, well, so we're coming to the climax, or what's supposed to be the climax of the episode. And again, it felt really quick for us to already be at this point, but it was really cool the way that they did it. But again, they rushed to it so fast I didn't really get to build to it at all, and that's what upset me the most. Again, Wanda looks like she's tapped. Like she looks strange. She's like zombie woman.
Like
she's
a zombie hanging in the air.
And then the runes start showing up, and I'm like, oh shit, she remembered the runes. And then I'm like, she didn't remember the runes. She pulled them from Agatha's head when she was looking in her mind. And maybe
she said thanks for the lesson. I mean, in reality, this all happened like 20 minutes after she had learned the lesson in Agatha's basement. So the whole,
true, but
she did say thanks for that lesson, or, she's trying. She said earlier, she's like, I'm not a witch. No one's ever taught me.
She said, thank you for the lesson, but she didn't know, how to cast those runes at that time. She had to have pulled them out of Agatha's head. Like, so she goes into Agatha's mind and she fucking saw how she learned how to do that shit. That's a loose explanation, which again, if they hadn't rushed, maybe they had been able to like go through something like that. But like there's a million different explanations for that, but I did kind of like how she like turned that back on her. But again, rushed, so it didn't feel earned. But that's again, I'm talking about silver linings here. Because in the grand scheme of Phase 4, I'm still going to enjoy my rewatch of WandaVision.
Okay, but we can't, this is the beginning of Phase 4.
This is the beginning of Phase 4, which is why I'm criticizing it so harshly.
Yeah, we have to look on it for what it is, not for what it could be viewed as later.
I'm not being gentle in my review for it right now, but I am saying that there are silver linings. I wouldn't have to say that there are silver linings unless there was shit that I really didn't fucking like. Like
But silver linings.
they wouldn't be called silver linings. They'd be called, hey, I really liked this cool thing that has
Yeah.
absolutely no flaws and isn't supplementing my unhappiness in any place.
And one of those silver linings is she comes out with the badass
Fucking the
version
best
of her costume.
version of the Scarlet Witch costume ever. Which
She
is
fully
pretty fucking
embraces
sweet.
what she saw through the Mind Stone. She creates her costume when she takes all of her
Yep.
power back from Agatha, and it looks cool. And she looks beautiful, and she looks unhinged at the same time, but she looks great. She's like, you want me to be the Scarlet Witch? Bitch, here I am. And then she takes Agatha back down to the square, and Agatha is now realizing she's completely at her mercy. Wanda has turned the entire hex into a place where only she can use magic, rendering Agatha, powerless. And Agatha starts begging for her freedom, and Wanda's like, "I'm sorry, I can't do that." And even Agatha's like, "You're not sorry, you're cruel." And
I
Wanda
liked that
smiles.
too.
And I liked that. I was like, yes, she is cruel. And it doesn't matter if the villain is saying it. The fact that everybody around that scene has been tortured by Wanda means that Wanda is cruel. And yes, even this episode seems to allude that Wanda didn't know everything that she was doing or the full impact of what she was doing. But the fact is, she still did it.
When they
And
illustrated the damage that she was doing, I felt that like that was a good moment.
yeah,
When they were saying is like when you let us sleep, like rough line already.
that's
we
a
have
that's a
your
heavy line
nightmares.
already. Yeah,
It's like when you let us sleep, we have your nightmares. Like
and she's
your
like,
grief
no,
is killing
no,
us.
you're here, and I'm keeping you safe, and I'm keeping you at peace. And they're like, no, you're drowning us in your grief. Or what it no that 70s mom says you're poisoning us
with your grief.
with your grief. And if you won't let it stop, just let us die, and anyway, so she says, you know what, I'm not going to lock you up somewhere. I'm going to turn you back into the nosy neighbor that you were, and you'll stay that way until I find a use for you. And that was the end of Agatha. But then Wanda realizes that she has to make the hard choice and give up her family for the town. Basically, it's either she chooses. Agatha had made it clear that Wanda made the mistake of tethering the same magic that's keeping her family around is the same magic that's keeping the hex up. And if she takes the hex down, she loses her family. And I guess she just decides at the end that that's what she should do.
Which, I mean, fair enough. Like, they didn't want to have her go all out villain to end the show. Which was what we were wanting. Like, we kind of, like I kind of wanted to see where
look at her.
She
looks like a villain.
She does.
She looks great.
Looks like a baddie, and she looks.
This is when she was smiling at Agatha, and you're like, "Oh my god, she is a villain." And you know what? It's still. We'll get into it. There's
honestly
still ways that she could have been a villain. After this,
I don't even look at her being a villain at this point. I honestly I feel like she's just gonna be like she's gonna be chaos. Like she's gonna do. Like just in her grief, like who knows what she's one of the post-credit scenes. Like I know that I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but she's reading through the Darkholm, like in the astral form. Like in her astral form, she's reading the Darkholm while she's out in some secluded area. Which honestly, when they first brought it up, I thought I was like, oh my god, it's Alkali Lake or something like that. I was gonna see. I was like, what the fuck what are they jumping into? Like, I don't know why that jumped into my brain, but it looked like somewhere I would go and photograph. But she's reading through the Darkholm in her astral form. Mm-hmm. So she's learning some shit. Like, big time. What can we expect from her? in order to handle other things. Like, what's absolutely next for her? Like, what do we know that she's going to do while she's trying to understand these powers? Like,
But
she could go either way, and when there isn't a check or a balance there for her anymore, like we
well,
can call
that's
her a villain. We could, like, she could choose to do bad. She could choose to do good. She's like, it's just going to
she
be
is
like
a
how she feels that day.
it's the
Like,
way the show portrays her. They give her this heartbreaking ending to her family, and it really was done well. She chooses, for
yeah,
some reason that's not fully fleshed out, to sacrifice her family in order to give the town back its freedom. And we have this great scene where they walk the family home while the hex is shrinking. Her and Vision put their kids to bed, and then her and Vision go downstairs and have this really heartfelt conversation. And that,
another
yeah,
really
and
good.
Vision asks, "What am I? Before I go, what am I?" And she says, "You are the part of the Mind Stone that's in me, but you're also you're all my pain, you're all my hurt, you're all my hope, and you're my love." And
Yep.
he tells her this great line, which was like, I was once a
I was a
voice without a
voice without a
body,
body.
and
Like,
then he was something else. And then he was a body, but he was a thing with the Mind Stone. Then he's a memory, and they've
it's
said
like,
goodbye before, which means that they could say hello again.
I've been
And
a voice with no body, a body but not human, and now
mm,
a memory made real. Who knows what I might be next?
yeah, and that was really touching. And
It
they held
was.
on to
It
each other,
was
and you
really
could
good.
tell. And he was crying, and you could tell he was kind
Yeah.
of scared. He was scared of the hex coming. And she holds on to him through it. And then when it's over, she's left standing in that empty foundation of a house that she started in. And this is where she puts up her hood, and instead of getting back in her car and driving away, she walks back into Times Square where Monica Rambeau and the rest of the town is. And at this point, I was like, oh, she's going to go turn herself in. Like, she realizes what she did was wrong. She's walking back to Monica Rambeau. All the people in the town are mean mugging her. And I'm like, that's it? She just held you hostage for 10 days. You're not going to do anything more than mean mug her? And this is where the show
She just
really
held them hostage for 10 days inside their own brain. What the fuck do they think they're
right.
going to be able to do?
Well, still, I would have been a little more pissed than that. Anyway, what pissed me off about this episode the most is she goes up to Monica and says, "I'm sorry," to Monica, the one person in that whole Times Square that went into this willingly, that comes out with superpowers. And she says, "I'm sorry," to Monica, not anybody else in the town who she tortured for over a week. And then she just says, "Okay, peace, I'm out." And Monica basically says, "Oh, I'd do the same thing if I was in your position. I'd bring back my mom too." Like that was all that Wanda did, was bring back Vision.
Yeah.
She tortured and held hostage an entire town. And this is the world where the governments of the world came in with the Sokovia Accords to hold the Avengers accountable. But they're not going to hold her accountable for holding an American town hostage for over a week and torturing the residents. If they
that
are,
was
they didn't
kind
seem
of,
to hint at it.
well, yeah, I feel like they glossed over it, but again, if we had had more time, they might have been able to go through all that. The big thing here being, I think, it's like, you know what, that will probably be some level of conflict that Doctor Strange has with her. It's like, you really fucked with the natural order of things in a bad way. There's a lot of people after you right now. Like, how are they going to go with that? But that is not how it should be done. We need to have that question answered before we leave this series. And again, that's another misstep that they took here by trying to push things in here.
And they the show didn't want to paint her as the villain. Everything from the music cues to the way she flew away to what Monica said to her. Oh my God, I hated Monica at the end of this show. She literally says to her, "They don't know what you sacrificed for them." She held them hostage and tortured them for a week, and they don't know what you sacrificed for them?
They don't.
They're
give
the
a
victims.
Fuck what you sacrificed.
That
for
would
them.
be like, I even came up with this alternate scenario. Okay, a guy wakes up from a 5-year coma, goes back to his house. There's another family living there. He goes into that house and wants to play family, holds that family hostage for a week. At the end, when they're begging them to let him go, he almost chokes them to death. And then at the end, he says, you know what? I'm going to let you go, but it's my sacrifice and you aren't the victims. That's basically what this show was. And Monica is just, I was like, do you have no spine? I mean, I get it. You're a woman, powerful character. You want to sympathize with the other woman, powerful character, but you can hold her accountable at the same time. They don't know what you sacrificed. That was horrible, horrible writing.
Another thing that jumps into my brain is how many people became, because we know that this moment happened after the snap bringing everybody back. How many people? Yeah. How many people were stuck waiting outside that town because the government wasn't letting them in, trying to find out stuff about their loved ones?
Right.
Who were still there in that town.
The one woman. Back. What did she say? Call my husband, tell him I'm okay, and tell him not to come here.
To come back, you know.
I mean, Jesus.
Like how many people have been trying to like find out what was going on with their loved ones and couldn't, because the commanding organization was too focused on making a murder robot, but framing an Avenger for creating a murder robot, which still, dude, like I was so annoyed with Hayward. I was judging him on his gun posture. Like a fucking guy who's been a government agent isn't gonna one hand that shit when he's trying to make a shot from that distance. It's like he's a government dude. He would have been.
Oh my gosh! Now you're getting into nitpicking.
I was nitpicking that guy so much because they gave me absolutely no merit to stand on with that character.
And that was the villain in handcuffs moment. I was like, who gives a shit about that guy? The villain just flew away. The villain just left. He's not the villain. He's the dick of the show. But the villain flew away, and you seem to have been celebrating that. You even gave her a farewell in the sunset moment, and even the music was uplifting. Not, oh, she's a villain and she's fleeing from the police and she's very dangerous.
We got no hint that anybody is like gonna try and get with her, is gonna try and like get after her or anything like that.
She didn't even apologize to the people. She just said, I'm still learning my powers. She could have at least turned to the people around her and said, look, I'm sorry. I didn't know everything I was doing. Nope. She just, I'm gonna put up my hoodie and fly out and then go learn dark magic. And then that end sequence that you said where she's learning. And she looks creepy, yes. But other than that moment, nothing about the end finale paints her as a villain. Nothing does. And also, there's nothing really stopping her from making Vision or the kids again. It's just that this time she doesn't tie them to a hex. I mean, if she could create that entire town, why couldn't she just create those 3 people?
We heard the kids in that moment. So it's like she's probably realizing exactly that.
And where is she?
And since we know that they're going to be trying to come up with a new Avengers series or movie here in the near future, Wiccan and Speed are part of that.
Sure.
And so we're probably going to end up seeing those actors again for playing those roles, or older versions of them, but whatever. Like,
and where is she? Did she make that house? Did she take somebody else's house? Like, did she just not learn any lessons and she went and made another house somewhere? Or did she kill somebody and take his house? Like, it was just kind of like, oh, okay. So she left one place and went to another place.
I want to say that she's in Sokovia or something.
Well, I mean, it was really cool mountains, but it didn't. On second watch, I'm like, did I miss a Sokovia tag somewhere? And it doesn't say it, even though the house kind of looks European, but it could have been anywhere.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I mean, it had some old school appliances and stuff in there too. It was like who knows? Who fucking knows? When she was making tea, I was expecting Doctor Strange to show up in that moment.
I was too. Oh my gosh, I was.
All right, tea. And like he's got his game face on. He's like, "Fuck did you do?" or something like that. But nothing.
We did get mention of him. Agatha said you were stronger than the Sorcerer Supreme, which is cool. But when she said that, all I could think of was Stephen Strange knew the second that Loki was on Earth. Yet the most powerful magical being on the planet is over in Jersey causing chaos for over a week, and Doctor Strange doesn't do anything about it or doesn't go check it out or nothing. I mean, I guess this is the same old thing with what happens in a single film, and why don't the Avengers come into that? But it's right next door to Stephen Strange.
To be fair, at that moment in Thor Ragnarok, the world was not recovering from a 5-year blip. And
Sure.
also, I'm sure that part of the thing that Strange is trying to investigate is any damage that might have been done to the other timelines while all the Infinity Stones are being knocked around. So
Sure, but if Agatha could sense it, you would think the Sorcerer Supreme could sense it.
Well, see, I didn't really get a sense to whether Agatha was there already or not. Like,
She seemed to suggest that she flew in when she sensed the power. Like she came in after it was already happening.
I'm not terribly convinced of that just yet, but again, like she didn't kill her, so we're probably going to see some
I would hope so.
Agatha.
I'm glad they didn't kill Agatha. I'm glad they didn't do that. And I'm glad they didn't kill off White Vision, because it gives these characters a chance to be a part of the future. But what I was most
like, that's the problem. We need it because we didn't get the resolution that we needed with these characters in this series.
We didn't. But I honestly, I don't want to see a whole nother epic of Wanda falling for White Vision. But what I was sad about, because what I was most excited about a 9-episode Wanda show about Wanda Maximoff, was that it was really going to dig into her grief and give her character some type of push to her next thing. And the first half of this show really dealt with her grief. And I thought the second half was so muddy that it just, at the end of it, I don't feel like it didn't feel like she went anywhere. Like it didn't feel like she dropped her grief, or she let it consume her, or she's moving on, or she's taking a step back. It didn't feel like her character had moved. It just felt like her character now has a magic book and a cool costume, and who knows what'll happen. But it really felt like there was no, I didn't want a perfect bow ribbon wrap up for the finale, but I wanted a sense of what was next.
None of us were expecting that either. None of us were expecting them to completely like solidify absolutely everything. So it's not unfair for us to have that expectation, to them have at least it be a satisfying ending to this show and lead us into the next thing. But so far, now all we have is fucking like questions that should have been answered. It's like,
and that's what the director said. That's what the director said. He was like, "For those that have fan theories, you're going to be disappointed. But I hope the majority of the audience are satisfied with the ending and the story we were telling." And my answer to that is, you didn't finish the story you were telling. Instead, you packed in all this other stuff that didn't need to be in the final episodes just so you could have your big CGI fights. But you forgot to finish the story you were telling, or at least give some type of push to the next part of that story. And I just thought there was too much. There was too much in too short a time. And the thing that I was there for the most, we got the least amount of. And then it was just done. Just done. Yeah. And I was like, ugh, why? You know, I don't know. I still really liked the show, but I really didn't expect to be this, like, just broken by the ending, by the lackluster ending.
And that's why I'm trying to think of it on that grander scheme, because that's the only way that I feel like I will be satisfied at that point, is after seeing some of this other stuff be addressed in other pieces of content. That is not how it should be. I am not saying that as a way to try and defend Marvel or anything like that. I'm trying to save myself from being massively disappointed with the entire thing. Because if this is truly like the resolution that we're going to get for some of these characters until like quite a while away, that's the only way that I can think about it. Otherwise, I am just gonna stew and be angry about this until those answers actually get come to fruition. And that, and again, I say this again. One of the biggest things that we on this show have addressed in other pieces of content, specifically, it comes up a lot in Star Wars or something like that, is when shows come out with content after the fact that retcon things that happened earlier or are specifically built around the understanding of those other things, trying to fix how those went. The Clone Wars,
flesh them out. Yeah.
We saw a lot of that in the Clone Wars, but the Clone Wars stands on its own 2 feet. It had its own resolution. There's a lot of other pieces. I can't come up with any other like major references at this point that fix that. But I think particularly what ended up coming up was like the adjustments that George Lucas was making to the prequels and to the original trilogy to try and fix something that he couldn't fix back in those days. It's almost like they're trying to do something like that, but with completely new pieces of content that are coming down way down the road. And the issue is that because this does not have a solid resolution, whoever takes the mantle from this director to write the next chapter of these character stories has so many unanswered questions and so many resolutions that they now have to do, or it's just going to continue to create more and more division in the fan base.
Right. And can you imagine if
that's an unfair burden to put on a creator when they're trying to have their own original idea that might have already been like developed, but now the fuck do you do with it?
And this was supposed to come out after Black Widow, after the Winter Soldier and the Falcon. So it was going to be even closer to the next Doctor Strange movie than it currently is. And the fact that there was nothing hard connecting it, like if you looked when the Darkhold was out on the screen and she was like, you even have a whole chapter dedicated to you, and it showed her in the book, the other page opposite of that showed multiple worlds. So that was, a lot of people are saying that was talking about the multiverse. However, that's all they did.
We've already got 3 articles saying WandaVision finale, how the post-credit scene sets up Doctor Strange 2 in cryptic way. It doesn't set up anything.
Set it up at all. What the mid-credit scene the mid-credit scene talks more about the Skrulls, which we knew were going to come back.
Well, it doesn't talk about them at all. It's just like, hey, just
shows her.
That makes sense.
Then she's like, a friend of your mother's wants to see you. I don't know why they didn't just say Nick Fury, and then she's like, where? And the Skrull is like, up there. Too. Sure. But the Skrull is like, well, Talos is down on the ground. He's not up there. Talos is on the ground.
Well, he was on the ground. She said he might be up there now. We don't know.
She said up there, like space. But Monica's already been to space, so why didn't you just say space? Monica's an astronaut. She's already been up there. She might not have been on the ship that Nick Fury's on, but it was just like, did you forget that she was already up there?
She was grounded. She was excited to get back up into space. I can see it.
I guess. So that's kind of a nod to the Secret Invasion stuff that's coming, which, yes, but that nods to that. But the fact that this was supposed to get you excited about the multiverse of madness, the layman that doesn't follow all the drops of what Feige puts out and all the news and all the projections wouldn't get shit from that. They wouldn't be like, this leads into the next Doctor Strange movie? Nothing about this does. A flash of a page with multiple worlds doesn't say, oh my God, this show set up the multiverse. If anything, it had nothing to do with the multiverse, because the one thing we thought tied to the multiverse was a troll, and he wasn't even the Quicksilver we thought from another universe. So it had nothing to do with multi-universes.
That's the thing that's irritating me, is that Marvel is going to like it's with the direction that they have set with this piece of content. Now, again, this was out of order. We weren't supposed to see this we should have already seen other pieces of the Marvel content at this point in time.
Right.
But we haven't. But either way, it's clear now that you guys, I mean, it's a fair assessment to make too, because you know what? They're getting farther and farther away from being mass appealing to casual viewers. like it's like I said, like he's I feel like Kevin Feige said no to that question to that reporter that we mentioned earlier on in the show about, do you have to see all these other pieces of content to understand the movies? And he said no. I feel like he almost has to say that. Like, because if the shareholders get a sense that the future content is, and I'm not saying that he's right to do so. I'm saying that honestly, that's not the direction that I'm seeing. I'm seeing that, like, if you
What
want to
about this
understand
show was
anything,
monumental? What about this show? If a person didn't see this and just saw the next MCU movie, what about this show did they miss that they wouldn't understand what happened in the next movie? Nothing monumental happened. It was a
nothing
side
monumental
mission.
happened, but sure, but like any involvement with Scarlet Witch that you see again, like there's a lot
I
of
mean, it
detail
fleshes
here.
out her character, but there
Like
was nothing. It
there's
was a
gonna be a
side
white
story.
there's gonna be a white Vision that shows up at another film. You're gonna be like, what the hell is this going on? You're gonna have a
Yeah.
character called Photon, who's the child of Captain Marvel's old wingman. Like, it's like there's some shit to figure out here. Jimmy Woo is now like higher up in the. Never mind, you can write that one off.
Yeah.
It's
I
like him moving
just
up in the world isn't that
a
bad.
lot of these elements felt to me like the Thor scene in Age of Ultron. Like we had this Age of Ultron movie, and all of a sudden Thor had to step off to the side and take this mystic bath that would inform him about the Infinity Stones. I get it. Marvel had to set up their future stuff, but it had nothing to do with the movie. And too much stuff happened in the later episodes of this show that didn't help this show, but was trying to connect to future things. Photon didn't have any real impact on this show. Nothing did. The white Vision was so shoehorned in there at the end. Blah blah. Whatever. I get it. Later on, and it was just. I'd rather if they were going to make it so damn short, then just focus on the things that mattered and stop trying to shoehorn in all these other things that took away from that. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm
I'm
not
irritated,
as
man. I'm irritated. And I even watched it a second time with Maddie, thinking maybe I was just cranky this morning and I missed some stuff. Maybe my headphones weren't working correctly and there were more musical cues that said no, there weren't. And Monica did say those things. And God, I didn't expect to hate Monica as much. Like, I get it. Her whole point during this show was to be the one person that fought for Wanda. When everybody else was like, yo, it's clear as day, Wanda is torturing these people. Monica was to the side, well, you haven't felt grief like she did. Okay, that's fine. You want to look out for your people. But I feel like any other Avenger and even Vision said, what you're doing is wrong. And at the end,
Vision was the most
yeah,
like his reaction to what she was doing was the most sensible out of anybody.
he broke
Like,
down, sat down next to her and said, look, even if you even if you didn't know what you were doing in the beginning, you have to know now that it's wrong. And what does Monica say? Oh, you sacrificed a lot. These people should be grateful. I
yeah,
was like, bitch, are you serious? Is that supposed to make you look like a good person? Because you basically said that if these people don't have a role in future movies, they don't matter. Like civilians don't matter. Just the plight of superheroes. That's all that said to me, and it felt so wrong. It felt so wrong. Unless Photon's supposed to be a villain, which I don't think she's supposed to be. So why would she be saying that? Why would she be saying something that's clearly so wrong? Or even something like, I should take you in, but I feel for you. Get out of here before the cops show up. Nothing like that. Just, oh my God, you sacrificed. These people that you tortured should feel grateful. It rubbed me so
yeah,
wrong. I did not like that at all.
that part of the ending, yeah, it was shit. Honestly, like you really can't get around that. Because we were, God, again, it's because they rushed through so much of it.
They
Like,
did.
some of these like also like we had more of a connection to Norm than we did fucking Dottie. It was like, why was Dottie the one who touched her emotionally? And it's like, what, or why wasn't it fucking like
Anybody else?
Yeah, why
I did
wasn't
like
Photon having why wasn't Photon like pushing like for her to understand this? Like there wasn't that conflict moment, you know?
Mhm.
Like
Also,
Photon tried to have it at first when she like broke in the first time, like she was trying to like
mhm.
don't let him make you the villain. There was another like and then he ended up back in there. Like Hayward ended up inside the hex. He was like I was like, all right, he's gonna try and paint Wanda as a villain again, which he had every right to do. Like he would have been in the right in making that assessment. Like there would have been a great tense moment where like Wanda had been faced with a choice to like solidify and make things worse or like choose to be the good guy. And that would have been a great time for Photon to again be like, I'm trying to step in here to try and show you what you could be. No, they decided not to do that. We're going to have Darcy hit him with a milk truck. And that's going to be the end of her weird ass involvement in this entire show. Honestly, when she was on camp and in the early stages, I was on board for Darcy being in this show. But afterwards, like I was just like, you know what? They threw your character away. I'd be pissed.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we're gonna hit him with a milk truck. He's gonna get out, and he's gonna try and fire on these kids, and that's how it's gonna go. Or I probably have the order screwed up, but and then Darcy's they're gonna ask about Darcy, and it's like, oh, debriefings are for pants like weaklings. I'm like, what was
It's so weird.
Was Kat
she got
Dennings
one
just
line.
not available at that time? Like,
yeah, that was so weird. She got one line, and then she was just out. It was so weird. It was like you got to remember 2 episodes ago she was in the truck with Vision, and then Vision's like, peace out, I'm just gonna do this myself. Yet somehow White Vision beat him to the house. So what was Vision doing? And then did Kat just spend the last 2 episodes driving into the city from outside the city just to say have fun in prison, and then that's it? Like it was a weird cutoff for her.
It's the weird passage of time that was going on that was
and then
strange.
I just remembered this too. Why was Wu there to begin with? Because he had a person living in the town. What was it? When you assume a different name, and you live, you move and you assume a different identity. He's like, yeah, yeah.
Witness
he said protection. I had a witness protection person in the town. Who? Again, it was something that they teased, that they made you to believe that this was a big thing, and then they just never bring it up again.
Did he ever agree to that though? Like, I'm trying to think. Did he ever like allude to that, or was that like him kind of playing FBI, but like, no, I can't say.
No, he said that at the beginning. He literally said that to when he first met Monica. He was like, "This is the whole reason why I'm here. We have a Wit Pro that's in there that we lost contact with. I called his sister or called his mom. They don't even remember who they are, and that's what led me here."
All right, yeah. So Ralph Boner, his full name is Ralph Boner, and the explanation came early in the finale when fans learned that he was keeping Monica and Agatha's attic with him.
He's not the Wit Pro person. Well, at least they didn't allude to that. Is that what they're trying to say? That he's the person
who holds the key to WandaVision.
I like Jimmy. I did too. He was
Jimmy
a good.
In there,
he's the new Coulson to me, and I want him to be in more. Even though Coulson's still around somehow, I want him to be in more. I thought he was great. Yeah.
What brought Jimmy to Westview in the first place? A missing persons case. The federal agent was in contact with someone in witness protection who suddenly went missing in light of the hex. Throughout WandaVision, we have checked in on many of the Westview denizens. So that's the question. Who is the witness? There's a lot of speculation about the secret cameo at the heart of WandaVision. Is it nothing more than Paul Bettany going toe-to-toe with Paul Bettany? Maybe, but there's something bigger here. Blah, blah,
yeah,
blah.
that was all, smoke and daggers.
Whoever it is, Jimmy's witness is still a huge mystery up in the air, one that's all too easily lost in the midst of all the other WandaVision action. Is this?
I could care less about the theories. I just thought that the writing at the end wasn't that great.
That article was written on the 3rd.
Okay, so before the finale.
Unless they had early access to it, which of course is tough. But then then there's a list going through who the top 10 top 10 people who the witness could be. Are you shitting me right now? Screen Rant is shitting the bed right now.
What's new?
Like WandaVision, 10 characters who could be Jimmy Woo's missing witness. 10, Ralph. Okay, sure. Maybe. 9, Agnes. No. No.
When was this written?
Yesterday.
Okay.
Agnes, Dottie, maybe. We didn't get to learn much more about her at that point. 7, Mephisto. Maybe Mephisto's the fucking wit. What? Are you shitting me right now? Simon Williams. Wonder Man. Baron Mordo. Why in the fuck would Baron Mordo be in witness protection? Bill Foster from Ant-Man and the Wasp. Maybe. He had a connection there, but again, really don't think so. Sonny Birch, which was the bad dickhead in Ant-Man and the Wasp. Peter Parker.
What?
Peter Parker, and then Quicksilver. Which
well, they clearly don't know the timeline of things because this is before the last Spider-Man movie. So
the actual Quicksilver, like the original actor and everything, was their number one possibility for it. Which that at least would have made sense. Be like, yeah, S.H.I.E.L.D. somehow got him back to life, but the FBI wouldn't be like overseeing all that shit. They brought Coulson back. Why wouldn't they be able to? Why wouldn't they put in a lot of effort to bring back why wouldn't they try and bring back Quicksilver? That would have been nice, but yeah, we didn't get an answer to that question.
We didn't get an answer to a lot of questions. Here's the deal. I just wrote my review for Victims and Villains. They asked me to do a review. I'm going to go on their podcast next week and talk about this. Probably say the same things. I wrote a 3 out of 5 star review. I feel like if this was a movie, I'd be saying the same thing. There was a lot of great stuff in this. It gave me more of Wanda that I've wanted. But the final act.
If I had to sit through a 6-hour movie.
No. I'm not saying a 6-hour movie. I'm saying if this was a movie, I would have said, if this was somehow put down in a movie, I would have been like, look, it started out great. It gave me more Wanda, which I've been begging for, but the final act was rushed. And yet somehow we got 6 hours, 9-episode TV show. And instead of figuring it out how to way to take their time, they still rushed it. But, I mean, it's not 0 out of 5 stars. There was still some really good stuff. It still gave me Wanda. It still got Wanda to Scarlet Witch. My God, she looked great in that Scarlet Witch. She looks creepy as hell with her eyes. I just didn't like the majority of the final episode. But I'm excited that she's now the Scarlet Witch, that she's going on from that. I thought there could have been more consequences, and maybe this will be like the Man of Steel thing. You know, everybody was pissed off at the end of Man of Steel because of all the destruction in Metropolis. What happened in Batman v Superman? They started off with Senate hearings about whether or not they should hold Superman accountable. So maybe the next time we hear about Wanda, it'll be because she's wanted, for torturing a town of civilians. Yeah. However, I wished we could have
violated the fuck out of the Sokovia Accords.
But we could have just seen that. We could have seen a 5-second scene of somebody saying Wanda just made the top of the wanted list, or somebody at Avengers Complex saying, "Did you see this? Wanda is now wanted for, torturing a whole town." That it didn't have to be much more than that, but instead we got this flying off into the sunset thing, and I was like, "Do you want us to think she's a villain? Do you want us to be happy for her?" Like what? It was like they didn't want to tell you one way or the other, and they really didn't want you to feel like she's a villain. And that's that's what Disney does. They take Maleficent, they make her a sympathetic anti-hero. They're gonna do the same thing to Cruella. I swear, some guy was just like, "No, by the end of the movie, she's gonna be horrible." And I was like, No, Disney's not going to make a whole movie about Cruella and she's not an anti-hero by the end. She's not going to be skinning puppies in the last scene of the movie. She's going to be an anti-hero. What did they do to Loki? He was a villain for 5 seconds. Now he's everybody's favorite anti-hero. It's what they do. They just can't let villains be villains. And God, this would have been one of the most compelling ones. And maybe they can still make it happen. But at the end of it, it really didn't feel like that's what they wanted you to feel.
Personally, I feel like that's what they're going to do. This is the
Well, they could have made it a little more clear.
They could have made it a lot more obvious. You know what? It would have taken a 30-second post-credit scene where they're at the Avengers compound and Rhodey is like walking into the room and it's got like the other living Avengers there who decided to stick around after all this stuff. It'd be like, all right, Wanda's off the grid, but we need to go out and find her or something like that. And or that would have been like they're just sitting there casually. They're just chilling. And then all of a sudden they get an alert from Ross or whoever the fuck is running the shit now. Be like, we've got a new top priority target for you guys. And they're like, all right. Like, and it was like she just held a town hostage, like gives like a brief synopsis of what just happened. And then they're like, all right, well, who's the target? Like, Wanda Maximoff. Cut to black.
Exactly. That could have worked. Or we could have had a slight different change of lines from Monica. Monica could have been like, I know you've sacrificed a lot. I know you're hurting, but you did something wrong here, and I got to take you in. And instead, Wanda goes, no, I'm the Scarlet Witch. I'm going to go do whatever I want now, and flies off like the villain she is. Instead, we got none of that. Instead, we got flying off into the sunset. I was just like, she just tortured people. I know she's supposed to be a villain, but the way you're making it look like she's not. It's weird. Mixed messaging is weird.
Yeah.
Just commit, man. Just commit. And everybody will be like, oh my God, they took one of the most likable characters and they turned him into a villain. This is insane. But it was like they were just afraid to make her the actual villain.
Well, see, what's been the best characteristic out of most of the villains that have worked really well in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Killmonger was an incredibly compelling villain because like he was trying to stand up for people who are victimized a lot. He was just doing it in a rough way. Like he had a really bad method for trying to go about it. It's like, how was Thanos one of the best villains in cinematic history in all time? It's like he was addressing something that is being addressed in pop culture media all the time. Climate change, like the way that the world is just not infinite. Like he's, you know what? He's got an extreme solution to the problem, but like he was a compelling victim. He was fucking terrifying because he was powerful. He could do whatever he wanted to do. And now you've got a character who can do whatever she wants to do, create any reality that she wants, and is stricken by the worst set of grief circumstances that any character in the MCU has seen so far. It's like she lost her family due to fighting, due to war. Gets out, gets experimented on by another organization to again be used for war. Loses her brother as a result of just another horrible thing created by, again, the same fucking guy who was responsible for the weapon that killed her parents. Loses her brother, gets thrust into an organization that she wasn't ready to be a part of, doesn't really understand doesn't really get time to deal with that grief, bombs a fucking building, becomes hated by absolutely everybody. Before she gets to deal with that for too terrible long, the only person that she's ever been able to love dies because she had to fucking do it. And then time gets thrust back, and then she has to watch him die again in failing of her own events. And then she gets brought back. He's not back. And then everybody else in the world got the person back that they had lost, but she didn't. And then she finds out that she's got that he had planned for them to have a life together. He was going to abandon like the only life that he knew to have a life with her. And then he's gone. Can't deal with it. She has to see him dismantled and in pieces. And then at the end of all of that grief, after torturing a town, going through all this witchcraft, all this stuff, realizing that she now has to sacrifice again Vision and now 2 children. You know, I'm going to walk it off. He's gonna go into the sunset. I'm gonna try and figure this stuff out.
That it's the most compelling foundation for a villain the MCU has. The longest time to manifest it, and at the end, you just see her drinking tea at a lake house and reading a book. And I get it; she looked creepy while she was reading the book, but you didn't get the sense of why. Is she doing it so that the next time she does it, nobody can ever stop her? Is she like, if I'm the Scarlet Witch, I'm going to be the Scarlet Witch? There was no eerie music. It was just, there was eerie music when they showed her reading the book. But when she walks out of the town, it was just like, okay, I guess there's no consequences. I guess, you're just fine. We saw you break. We saw you have a mental breakdown that started all this. And now you had to lose more and you're not more broken. Like it was like, oh my, if this is supposed to set her up as a villain, it just ended on such a weird note, man. Weird note.
There were a few articles that were saying that the last episode of WandaVision was about closure. It's like, she didn't get it.
What closure? Who got closure? We didn't get closure. She didn't get closure. The people of the town didn't get closure. Who got closure? Also, it's convenient.
I haven't read them. It was just a headline.
This is what I also didn't like. Did you notice she couldn't save her family because they were tied to the hex? Okay? But she's able to make a lifelong spell for Agatha that's not tied to the hex. She was able to turn Agatha back into the nosy neighbor, and then when the hex leaves, she's still the nosy neighbor. So why couldn't she just dismantle the hex and recreate Vision and her kids?
Well, to be fair, we didn't see if that is the resolution to that.
Well, she said it.
Well, she said it, but fuck.
She said it, and then she took down the hex like she knew not to tie her to the hex.
She also says that she doesn't understand her powers, but she's going to.
Yeah, so it's just it was just all over the place.
Honestly, one of the post-credit scenes that I would have liked to have seen would have been Baron Mordo showing up and breaking Agatha out of that stuff. Because if anybody has like a compelling reason to like not have there be any more sorcerers, it'd be him and her to get working together. She takes
but
powers from those.
How would he know how to break out magic? How would he know? He's a human, He
was a sorcerer for a long time.
Oh, wait. I'm thinking of somebody. I'm thinking of the bad guy from Winter Soldier and Falcon.
Baron Zemo.
Ooh. Baron Zemo. I'm thinking of a different Baron.
Yeah, no, I'm talking Baron Mordo, the bad, like Doctor Strange's
That's right.
old.
I know what you're talking about. That's right. Yeah. That's right. That could have tied into the upcoming.
That could have been like a great way to connect Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. That would have actually been actually a Doctor Strange thing.
That would have been a cameo. That would have been easy.
Yeah.
But instead, we got trolling Quicksilver and CGI fights. Oh, and also there's a weird CGI transition. We've talked about how this show looks so clean throughout this whole show, especially when every time he changes from CGI Paul Bettany to regular Paul Bettany. At the very end, when they're walking into the house, and I've seen it twice now. So when you watch this again,
right as they're going into the door, and they change into their and
it's this weird jerky like CGI bodies. I was like, the hell is that? It was creepy looking. I was like, that's the most.
They were really hoping that scene wasn't going to be long enough to have people notice that.
That was an unfinished rendering of something because it was bad. It was janky.
I wonder if because WandaVision got put in the position that it was, maybe they weren't quite done with it yet.
Right, because it was supposed to come later. Maybe they were still finishing things up.
Maybe just through the delays that put everything else on hold. They're like, you know what, WandaVision has a little bit more stay-at-home work that we can do. Like, let's push WandaVision's schedule up there or something like that. So
maybe that's why Darcy didn't have another scene.
Yeah,
it could be.
Maybe that's why it felt rushed. Maybe they're just like, we got to get this done.
9 chapters instead of 10. Yeah, could have been.
They were like, there's way more in-person filming that needs to be done with Falcon and Winter Soldier. We can't get as easily the post-productions that one as we want to. But
could be.
I don't know.
We've talked this to death, man, and I feel like I'm irritating myself even more about it.
I am too, a little bit.
I gotta stop.
All right. So like last second positives. I will rewatch the show when I decide to do like Marvel rewatches and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I will go through it again because again, there are some great Marvel moments, let alone great cinematic moments in this show. Marvel Vision's line about grief is still one of the best lines in the Marvel Cinematic Universe ever.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like that entire episode where she's going through her memories was an excellent episode, as well as several other really great episodes. Honestly, there's just this one and the Halloween episode were like the two where I'm like, you know what?
The Halloween episode.
The episode 6,
the Agatha All Along episode. Yeah, that one. The Modern Family episode,
the first Modern Family episode.
Yeah, that one and this one, I think I agree, were the weakest. I wonder, and you'll have to tell me this because I'm not gonna watch it again for a while. I'm gonna take a break from it, but when you watch it, I'm sure you'll binge it. Maybe not all 6 hours at once, but I wonder if it'll roll off any differently when you binge it instead of over, what was this, 5 weeks that we watched this because the first 2 episodes came out at the same time. I wonder if that will affect it at all, if it'll feel better or feel smoother because you didn't have to wait a week to get to it.
That is going to be an interesting theory because maybe it won't feel quite as rushed if it's all in one clump.
Yeah, and the episodes might not feel as short because you just click right into the next one. Yeah, it might roll off better as a binge thing. So you'll have to let me know on that.
The thing is that I'm comparing the show to The Mandalorian, which I think is the only apt comparison that I can make at this point because we're talking about 2 original pieces of material on the same platform made by some of the same higher up decisions. Maybe not quite that much, but like building off of that similar pattern. First episode of Mandalorian season 2, hour long. Really getting in there, but really just being a good Star Wars story. It wasn't trying to set up too terrible much. Like, yeah, there's a story here, but we've already figured out what it's going to be.
I think the writers on Mandalorian focused on a good story and didn't try to troll us with all these red herrings connected to other Star Wars things.
We need the Marvel Dave Filoni to come in and take over these Marvel series.
Well, we got Kevin Feige, and I think just focus on good things. If
Kevin Feige's got too much, many higher up decisions.
If he's saying
the creative guy to really get in there.
If he's saying that these things they're not standalone, but they're not necessarily crazy detrimental to the whole phase, just let them be their own thing. Stop trying to troll us with all these other things and these red herrings. Just focus on the story you want to tell and stop peppering in all this other stuff that you know is going to get a reaction, and then you blame the fans for getting a reaction. I mean, that quote, I'm sure he didn't mean it that way, the director, but it came off to me like, if you feel disappointed, it's because you had your own theories. It's like, yeah, but you put those theories on the table. Don't set us up for something and then get mad when we're like, you set us up,
I feel like he could absolutely be referring to some of like the wackier theories that haven't been really referenced to, that people were like trying to pull from the comic, like Mephisto. I'm not upset that Mephisto didn't show up here. Because honestly, by the time episode 5 had come by the time the Halloween episode had shown up, I wasn't sure how they'd be able to bring him in effectively. But that was also when I was under the belief that the last 3 episodes were an hour long, and finding out that wasn't true pisses me off even more after seeing this finale here. But what I will say at this point is that this show, disappointingly, has not changed how I feel, has not negatively impacted how I feel about Falcon and Winter Soldier. Actually, if I think about it, I'm a little bit more excited about Falcon and Winter Soldier at this point, because the more I think about it, Falcon and Winter Soldier is going to be just like a nice, slick, action-packed, espionage movie. split up into these episodes. Like, honestly, if they kind of keep sort of like a similar pattern that they did here, I feel like it's going to be an easier story for them to tell and close, because there won't be quite as many. Like, honestly, Falcon and Winter Soldier isn't built on quite as big of a storyline as WandaVision was.
I think it has the potential to be more contained and therefore more enjoyable because you're not expecting it to fill the gap.
I feel like it's not like they're going to be like, oh my God, they're making House of M. Or it's like, oh my God, they're making
or how are they going to
to
connect this to Doctor Strange? Or, where's the big connector piece? If there's no connector piece, that's fine.
I am able to go into Falcon and Winter Soldier with zero expectations. And that, and if that's something that the director of WandaVision would have liked people to have as they were going through, to like not have made any like super wild things, it's unfortunate that he didn't get that. But at the same time, he didn't do a whole hell of a lot to extinguish those flames either.
He didn't. So, and of course, Kevin Feige, hype man, before it even started, was like, "This is going to have major consequences on Spider-Man and Doctor Strange."
I really don't see how it's going to.
I don't see how
Spider-Man or Doctor.
She could be in those movies as the Scarlet Witch, and then say, "Yeah, it kind of does now." But as far as the plot currently has nothing. I don't know.
I'm hoping that the impact that WandaVision was supposed to have on these other movies is not going to be as messy as WandaVision's ending is.
Right. But hey, look.
I don't want to include it into that to that degree. But I am excited about Falcon and Winter Soldier in a much more simple experience.
And I'm also excited about the future of the MCU. When we lose characters like Captain America and Iron Man, we need some of these side characters to step up. And holy shit, man, if you can say anything about the show, it's that Elizabeth Olsen brought her A game. She showed a full range of emotions, and she proved, she already proved it in other properties, but it's just like, thank God she's here because she's great. And then Paul Bettany. How many times have we been like, oh, we lost Paul Bettany from the MCU and they found a way to bring him back. And now they've brought him back again. And he is just a blessing on screen, no matter what form he's in. I mean, I remember when they just cast him as Jarvis. I was like, man, that is such a small role, but my God, it's Paul Bettany. I love him in it.
Like, you can't, like, he is Jarvis. You can't imagine anybody else in that role now.
And then he's Vision, and then they give him this. It's just, I'm blessed that we have these two people in the MCU, and that it seems like we're going to have them in for a long time. So despite the lackluster ending, I'm so happy to see that the full Scarlet Witch is here and is going to be around for future MCU properties.
Yeah. I'm looking around at some of the other I'm scrolling through Twitter as we go through to kind of like see a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about isn't showing up here. Like, I'm getting a lot of people who are just loving it. Who love
there's a lot of people that are like, it's fire, it's amazing. It pulled my heartstrings. And yes, that one moment right before the end was great, but it was surrounded by mediocre shit. Like, I just could, anyway. We said our piece, man.
We did.
We're not trying to convince anybody.
Oh, here we go. We got one. The writers coming up with the Ralph Boner scene, fully knowing that everyone would be putting together elaborate theories since the moment Evan Peters showed up. And then it's got two people just laughing hysterically here. Like, because
then the whole Ralph Boner thing, like, even Grace Randolph of Beyond the Trailer was like, you could have done this other guy who's an actor in the comics and has connections to some of the characters in WandaVision. I mean, they could have just done something more clever. Instead, it was Ralph Boner. Like, okay. Like, all right.
Yeah. No, we, I feel like any little thing that I look at right now is just going to trigger more shit.
I know. We can talk about this all night, and I'm tired. It's 10:30.
Nerf herders, I'm sorry that a lot of the times you come to watch our reviews and it's us shitting on something. And
We just bitch at shit, but if
To
you
be
if you
fair,
want more positive
to-
stuff, watch
to
our
be-
earlier reviews of the show.
I was gonna check that out. If you want a show that ends properly that we've sung the praises of, go and watch Queen's Gambit.
Yes, which won big. So go do that.
I don't know. I feel like our complaints are warranted.
Oh my god,
this guy's
still saying I think Hayward is actually Mephisto. He's not, guys. Like, what are they going to do? Make another series that show that he's actually Mephisto the whole time? It doesn't make any sense.
If they're going to reveal him as Mephisto, now would have been the goddamn time.
Like, just stop making up read between the lines shit to make it better than it is.
Those are the expectations that I think that director's probably talking about. Like, you know what? If those people aren't satisfied, it's their own damn fault, and that I do agree with. Because at that point, you're grasping at straws. There is a breaking point for every theory that I came up with. And as soon as that breaking point showed up, I did try to salvage some of them, but you can't marry yourself to any of these expectations. Which is why I am not devastated by this show. 3 out of 5, I think. Like, I'm sticking it like a 7 out of 10 for this series. Like, I honestly, for the entire series, I would still give it, like, if I had to do like a graded letter, I'm still calling it like a B+.
Yeah, like, I think 3 out of 5 is fair. I don't think that's.
I will happily rewatch this show. Like, I'll binge it, and like you said, maybe binging it will actually like kind of like change the way I look at it. Rewatching it after seeing some more future Marvel content that ties into it, who knows? Maybe that like. Maybe it'll be another one of those things where it's like, you know what, this maybe it'll be like watching the Clone Wars after seeing the Star Wars prequels. Be like, holy shit, you know what? That's making me think about things in a little bit of a different way. But
well, even people with this show have said that they've gone back and watched Age of Ultron, and they're able to forgive things now in Age of Ultron that they've seen where Wanda is gone. So again, if Wanda becomes she is the Scarlet Witch. If the Scarlet Witch is like fucking bombastic in the future of the MCU, then this could be like, it had its problems, but it was a good origin for her, and that they gave her 6 hours to just come to this moment. So, it could have been a lot worse.
I will happily rewatch this show, and I will absolutely purchase a like box collector set or something like that they come out with to continue to help complete my Marvel collection of Blu-rays and whatnot. Like, it will find a happy home on my shelf. As even though I'm shitting on it, like, we shit on it because we care. But this is the story that we got. And like, again, I'm trying to think of it on like the grand scope of things because it is going to tie into other stuff. I'm excited to see what those other tie-ins are. Nerf herders, what did you think of the WandaVision finale? What did you think of WandaVision in general? Do you line up with where we're at? Do you feel like we're judging a little too harshly? If so, fuck off. Just a little bit. No, no. Let us know what you guys think. Hit the like button if you like this video. Hit the dislike button if you didn't. Be honest. We can take it. Be a part of the conversation. Hop in those comments. Find us on social media. Add us on there. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future content. I'm Seth. That's Josh. Until next time, we'll see you later.
See you later, guys. Have